Okay, so are we okay to make a start? Yeah, okay. So like I say, good morning everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to come along today, and thanks to Anna and Hannah for hosting us for this launch this morning. I'll give opportunity to my colleagues just to introduce themselves, and Jim also, I'll be handing over to Jim as we go through the presentation. So my name's Sarah Sewell. I'm Head of Service for Older Persons Commissioning at Dorset Council. I'm joined on the call by Mark. Want to say good morning, Mark?
Hello, everybody. So my name's Mark Tyson. I'm working as Programme Director for delivering commissioning strategies, supporting Sarah and the management team at Dorset.
And I think also from a Dorset Council perspective, I think my other colleague, Debbie Reefer, might be on the line. Debbie, did you want to just say good morning? Is Deb there?
Debbie, you're on mute.
Sorry. Oh, I've done my introduction. I'll go now. I'm Debbie Reefer, and I'm Commissioning Officer for Care Homes, working directly with Rachel Lawrence, who's the Commissioning Manager, and Sarah Saw. And I don't look as thin as you today, Sarah. I'm going to change my phone. Lovely to see you all.
And then, thanks, Deb. And then Jim and Angie from Valuing Care are with us as well. Would you like to just say hello, both?
Yeah, good morning. I'm Angie Wadsworth. I'm the Operations and Product Manager for Valuing Care, responsible for the running of the project. And I'll hand over to Jim.
Hi, good morning. My name's Jim White. I'm an accountant. I work for Valuing Care, and I'll be doing the analysis and report writing for the project.
Thanks. So have we got the slides displayed?
Just putting them up now.
Brilliant. Thank you. Sorry, I took technical issues. That's it. I can see them now. That's great. Thank you. So we've got a few slides just to kind of take you through. I know that cost of care figures and finances aren't always the most sort of exciting and an interesting thing, particularly on a hot Friday morning, to be taking you through. So please bear with us. We won't keep you for any longer than we need to, but I think it's a really important opportunity for us just to explain kind of where we're heading. We're really keen that as many care home providers take part as possible. So we'll just take you through these slides as quickly as we can, and as I say, there's obviously opportunities to ask questions either as we go, or we've got opportunity for questions at the end. So in terms of the first slide, so you'll be aware from our kind of previous conversations and from when we joined the session to talk about uplifts at the beginning of April, from a Dorset Council commissioning perspective, we are doing things differently. We're wanting to be more transparent, and we've got a much clearer strategy for how we're setting our care fees now. We've just shown here a picture of the information sheet that we shared when we announced our fees for this current financial year. So really wanting to give that kind of clear and transparent approach for how we're approaching different areas that are feeding in to how we're setting our fees. You'll recall that we did start our fair cost sort of journey, so to speak, before the government initiative required us to at the end of 2021. And we've got those government policies on adult social care that are now supporting and driving that approach to fair cost of care through. And we have had positive feedback from providers, and including Anna and the Care Association, that more transparent approach is welcomed, and a way that providers are keen to continue to work with us in that respect. So just in terms of our kind of plea for you to please take part. So I think it's kind of quite clear, hopefully it's clear, that we're really committed to understanding the cost of delivering high quality care, whatever the setting, and cost of care isn't something that we're only doing in the older person's care home market. We're also going to be repeating the exercise for this financial year in our supported living settings for LD, and also for older persons home care services, and indeed our learning disability care home support uses the Valuing Care approach around around cost of care as well. That's done on an individual basis. So as I've mentioned, over the past 2 years, the care home fee structure has been informed by the exercise that we originally ran in 2021 and the market feedback that was incorporated in there. As we've said many times before, we can only do this with the grants coming through from government, and for that we need the evidence as to how we're making our decisions going forward. So that insight that you give us really helps us lobby for more investment into social care. In terms of that being a journey, obviously we need that grant funding from government in order to meet the full cost of care, and we still don't have that full funding, and that's why we're talking this through in terms of this is our commitment to that journey towards a full cost of care payments and being able to seek that full investment that we would require in order to be able to get there. So we're wanting to continue to work in this basis though. We want to make sure that our new Dorset Care framework is informed and clearly linked through the terms and conditions of those contracts to the fair cost of care rates. So to that end, in terms of how we kind of approach our fair cost of care, obviously the more providers that participate in the survey, the more reliable the outcomes are. So again, it's a plea for you to please get in touch with Valuing Care. We'll also be sending all the templates out, and please do kind of engage, ask us questions, and get involved and complete those survey templates, please. So before I hand over to Jim, I just wanted to just reiterate why we're using Valuing Care again to run this exercise for us. And Jim will touch on this a little bit in his presentation slides. But so Valuing Care are specialists in this work, and you'll know that they completed our work in 2021, which informed our fee setting rates for the last financial year. And Valuing Care also did that refresh of those survey results, which indeed has informed our current fees. The methodology that Valuing Care use is tried and tested. They are independent, there's no vested interests. The survey results are anonymised and is confidential. The council do not see provider information. Any information that we see is anonymised and in summary form. But with Valuing Care doing this work across the country with other local authorities, there's the opportunity for that benchmarking approach to also be included in the information, so we can have those comparisons. So I'll now hand over to Jim just to take us through what's involved in the survey and some of the finer detail. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, good morning, everybody. As I said, I'm Jim White, and I'm an accountant. I work for Valuing Care, and I'm just going to run you a little bit more information about what the survey involves, what's required, and then after I've presented the slide deck, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions. And then if there's time, I'll give you some oversight of the template that we're going to be using for the exercise, which hopefully most of you are already familiar with. So what's involved? So I think it's really important to say this is an independent review of the local market, and with a view to identifying the usual costs of delivering services within the area. And within that, we obviously recognise that costs will vary between homes, and that what we'll also be seeking to do is look at the range of costs and how that varies depending on the levels of care and support that are actually being provided within different services. The methodology which we use is we use a percentile approach. So we look to identify the median costs and the range of costs being the kind of the first and third quartiles to get I suppose greater confidence in what those costs are. So where there's a tight range of costs, we can have greater certainty about about what is a usual cost. This is your opportunity to share your cost information in a confidential way. So your confidentiality won't be compromised with the council, but this information will be used to inform the council's future investment decisions and the rates it sets for services. So, you know, this, as I say, this is your opportunity to participate in the process and to inform future rates for services. Okay, just I'm going to run through this very quickly about value in care. So we've been doing this for a while, and me particularly, I've been doing this since 2012. We've worked for most of the councils and NHS groups across the country, and we've completed over 50 cost of care reviews and fee reviews. We're totally independent, so no vested interest in the results. And we've obviously got a lot of experience in terms of administering these types of review. So the scope of this review, so we're specifically looking at care homes for older people, and we'll be inviting all providers who are located within the Dorset council area to participate in the survey. The council's decided, I think there's a further 2 homes that are just on the boundaries that will be invited. These are providers that, as I say, are on the boundaries, but are significant providers for Dorset Council. And it's obviously important that the information is reflective of the local area within Dorset. So participation will be limited to 3 care homes per organisation. So for some of the larger providers with more homes, we only ask you to complete a survey template for the 3 homes that are delivering the most services for the council. So in terms of this is an important aspect. What we're actually trying to do is identify the costs of providing services to residents with different types of needs. So I suppose, and there's the list of service categories is shown on the slide. Obviously there's a split between residential and nursing services. There are categories for advanced dementia and mental health needs, and there's also a high needs category, which is to capture individuals that have effectively got bespoke care packages that require additional hours on top of a typical service. So when I talk about these categories, what we're trying to do is look at the levels of care that are being provided to individuals that fall within these categories, and hence that we get some understanding of the unit costs of providing services to people within these categories. There will be there's documentation that's embedded within the survey template, but also that will be provided when we write out to you, which will give you further definition of each service category.
And I suppose if I could just cut in there, if that's okay, just for a sec. This is just to kind of, we have a document that goes into the definitions of these categories in more detail, and it's very much an area that we're working on at the moment, but we thought it was important to be clearer with the market as to what we're kind of working towards. We've had other conversations in other forums about wanting to develop more of a common language around when we're talking as a as a system, as a commissioner provider relationship, and looking for care. When we talk about one particular category of care, we want to kind of have that common understanding. So please, it is a level of detail as you would obviously expect and hope for. So please do have a look through that document when that gets sent out by Value in Care. And we're really keen to start a conversation on any of that. If you look at it and think that doesn't look quite right, or what does that mean, then please kind of ask the questions and come back to us on that. Thanks, Jim.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. So in terms of the process, the plan is to send out invitations and the survey template on Monday next week following this meeting. And all care home providers will be contacted shortly after to check that you've got the documents and to ensure safe receipt. So as I mentioned before, I mean, hopefully you will already be familiar with the template. It's largely consistent with the last exercise that we did for you. We're only looking at 1 year's data this time. So because of the COVID element last time, we asked for 2 years of expenditure. This year, we're just asking for 1 year. We're asking for last year. So specifically for the year ending 31st of March, 2023. So the reason that we use a template like this is that we're obviously trying to collect information in a consistent format. So so that we can analyze providers and we can put the information side by side and as I said, draw out a meaningful analysis of costs. The format actually is entirely consistent with the Department of Health and Social Care requirements, which actually was based on our format anyway. So it obviously facilitates that ability to benchmark within the county, but also you know, on a national scale. Sorry, if I could just go back, Mark. So throughout the process, telephone support will be available. My colleague Pam Banks will be the person who's directly liaising with you. But if you've got any technical issues that you want to talk through, then please give me a call. My contact details are on the invitation letter. Obviously, when we receive templates from providers, we'll be checking them internally and Value in Care, just to making sure that they've been filled out properly and there's no obvious errors. And so we might be in contact with you to query information if something doesn't seem quite right. Once the survey is closed and we've received all the completed templates that have been sent to us, that information's then consolidated into a sample group, and that's what's used to identify the survey results for Dorset. Thanks, Mark. Right, so in terms of the information requirements, there's again, I'll run through this very quickly because we are hopefully we're going to have a quick look at the template afterwards, but we're going to ask for some service details, including the freehold value of the home, a summary of average occupancy for year ending 31st of March 23, and a breakdown of income and expenditure for year ending 31st of March 2023. That's obviously crucial information to calculating the unit cost. We're also asking for a summary of care and nursing staff costs per hour. So that's hourly rates for employing care workers and nurses. And then an estimate of caring nursing staff hours provided to residents in each service category. So this is allowing you to, I suppose, apportion the resources within your care home across the respective needs groups that you're providing services to. We do ask for a copy of financial or management accounts in support of your reported costs. Right, next. So in terms of the final reporting, it will be largely consistent with what we produced last time, although we're always trying to make things better and clearer. The final report should be available before autumn 23, and the intention is that this will then inform the budget setting process for 24-25. The report will identify, obviously none of the information will be specific to individual providers. So there'll be, as I said, there'll be strict provider confidentiality. And the report will present a summary of the usual costs or the median cost and range of costs of delivering care home services in Dorset. Within the report, we'll be providing comparison against latest national benchmark data. The report will include recommendations for determining a fair level of return on capital and recommendations for fee indexation to cover future inflation and cost pressures. Mark, I think you, oh, right, here we go. Do you want? Okay, so the reasons to participate, this is your opportunity to show how much your service costs and to inform future rates. A higher level of participation will provide the council with increased confidence in the results. You have our assurance that the survey results will be totally anonymised to protect your confidentiality. The intention is obviously to set rates for services which provide clear transparency of what they're expected to cover, and actually well, hopefully the information within the report actually provides meaningful feedback for providers in terms of how they compare to market averages. So if we just pause there to have any questions at this point.
So Jim, I can see we've already got a hand up. I can't see who it is though. Hannah, can you?
It's Sinto.
Go for it, Sinto. You might be on mute, Sinto, we can't hear you.
Not on mute. Weird, no.
Sinto, we can't hear you. Oh, there you go. There we are.
Can you hear? Sorry, Jim. The slide that which we were in, what the end report includes. Could you show that slide again? Is it? Because what the outcome includes.
The glamorous assistant is currently finding the slides.
That one?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you. And my next question is, last time you sent out this to, or did you send out all the providers in Dorset? Is that what you said?
We did, yes. So just from recollection, it was about 104 care homes. And we had the participation rate last time was 24 care homes.
Oh, that was my next question.
The quality of what was received was really good, actually. So so the quality.
Hannah, sorry, can you just mute anybody who isn't muted, just so that we can hear? Thank you.
Sorry, just trying to work out who it is.
The quality of what we received was really good, but ideally we would like to improve the sample size. I think there was there was we would have liked to get more nursing home responses or responses from nursing homes particularly.
Okay, so it's the participation is just 25% last year, correct?
Approximately, yeah.
Have you ever thought of why the other 75% has not participated?
I think that you know, and there's participation. We work with lots of councils, and participation is often better in areas where I suppose there's kind of a history of strong engagement between the local provider forum and the council. And there's kind of an established level of trust within the market. So, you know, we've worked with repeated customers, people who've been doing this over the last 10 years, and it's that process is developed, and
no, that's fine. I think what I was trying to find out is when you're doing this such a big exercise and 25% only participated, and has there been any thought gone in why the other 75% participated, especially in Dorset? But we got other care homes in other places, but I'm just finding out why it's such a low intake. I can say from my personal point of view, I found it's an overly time-consuming and tough exercise from my side. I've sat with one of your colleagues last year, and then found that there's a lot of chases were there. And I found it very not only time consuming, you need to provide a bit of a training out to all of that. And especially care homes like groups like as 1 or 2 care homes, how are we supposed to know all of that? We can sit with an accountant and there is a cost involved in it. And I have told one of our staff to work. She left it and gone up. She's not able to look at it. I asked our accountant to look at it. They didn't want to look up. Finally, I sat with one of your colleagues. It put a lot of pressure, I have to say. And even if you pay for somebody, then it's difficult to get these things out of it.
Jim,
yeah,
oh,
sorry.
I was just going to say, Sinto, I totally take on board what you're saying, and I think it would be good to bring Sarah in at this point as well. And exactly what you're saying, we're very aware of in terms of the Care Association. When you are a small provider and you don't have access to that data, it is hard. And that's one of the reasons why I've said, you know, we can support, and you've got Angie and Jim that you can pick up the phone to. But Sarah, did you want to come in at that point?
Yeah, please. Thanks, Anna. Hi, Sinto. I suppose it's just a couple of bits I wanted to add. So I think I believe that part of the reason why we had a lower than we would have wanted take-up rate the first time round was because we started this cost of care exercise in the autumn of 2021. So that was before the government initiative came out. So I think providers, as I know you're all under a lot of pressure at the moment still, but I think we wanted to kind of get on and start working in this cost of care approach, but we didn't have any other than ourselves saying we wanted to do this. We hadn't kind of got our relationship with the Care Association to the point we have it now either. So I think we didn't, if I'm honest, we probably didn't have the right routes through to engage with the providers like we do now. We didn't have that bigger kind of government kind of highlighting of cost of care or any of that kind of policy and support wrapped around it either. And I think understandably, I think probably some providers were a bit sceptical about the purposes for getting involved. So I'm hoping that now we've got the relationship in place with DCA and with Anna's support, and we've got Value in Care doing the exercise again, so we've got some consistency, and hopefully that providers can see that we are following the kind of the strategy and the path that we're kind of setting out around cost of care, and we're using it to inform. I'm hoping that providers will see that it's worth taking part in, because that's what's informing how we're setting our rates. And I take on board completely that it's something else that you have to fit into your day, and it is a time consuming piece. So I think it's about us understanding what that is, how we can support that, what's the role of the association in that. Angie and Jim are obviously on the end of the phone to help develop the template. So it's about, we want to understand what the impact is, because we think it's an important feature of how we set our rates and how we have this communication. So I suppose what I'm saying is that we don't have all the answers, and we do know that it's an extra thing for you to do, but I think unless we talk it through and work it out, we're not going to improve things.
I mean, I think that does hit the nail on the head, and I hate to say this, Jim and Angie, but it's never a sexy thing talking about stuff like this. But the bottom line is, the more we talk about it and understand how to do it, and Cinto, you're bang on, you know, as a small provider, it is really tough. And actually, sometimes we just don't know the answers to that, but there are ways to do it. And picking up the phone to Angie and Jim and saying, how on earth do I find this? Or how do I work it out? Actually, they're being paid to deliver that service. So you can go to them and say, I need your help. And I do guarantee it is confidential. I know if, as a provider, I would not be doing it unless it was being done in this way. But I do think if we don't do it, we're not going to be able to inform funding, fees, and even, you know, how we describe the different services that we offer. So we've got to be able to break this down in order to understand what you get for your money.
No, I completely understand, and we were happy to support. Last time we supported it, and I'm sure out of this 25%, it's a little bit mostly small providers supported mostly compared to the majority of. I can, without asking you the question, I know the answer for it. So that's another thing. Yeah, thank you for that. We would like to support, but one request is if it can be made any simpler than last time, I really appreciate it. Because there's information there, we would like to support. We're happy to spend 2 or 3 hours. If it can be any simpler than that, yeah, that's something I wanted to say at this stage. Whether we've done any consultation before preparing this. I know you preparing these questions for the providers. I don't know if there's any consultation done with the providers, whether this question is that the way you do, or does it need tweaking? I don't know if was there any exercise done that way. And you working with other councils, I understand that, but some of the questions I thought it's repeating last time, and then I didn't really understand why we wanted to do it in this way. I know you maybe know the answer. You may need that in that way for your stats. Completely understand, but from our point of view, looking at from our side, yeah, that's all from my side. I don't want to take over the conversation. I'm sure there are a lot of positives. Completely understand.
I think that they're all really good points, Cinto. And actually, you know, as we're moving on as a collaboration and as a care association, certainly then we can start to inform even more, and hopefully we can work that way. Simon.
Thanks, Anna. Cinto, I absolutely agree with you. And when you say, and you challenge the bit about what level of provider engages with this. And I don't know from last time whether you were able to get any of the larger organisations engaging with you. We certainly engaged with you with the process last time. But that's the worry I've got in terms of engagement again, and we will engage again. But the worry I have is that we go into this with a big sigh again, going, yes, we're a large provider. We provide a modern, purpose-built single ensuite accommodation. The cost of care exercise is largely contributed by smaller providers with very different cost base and cost structures. And were you to compare us alongside the likes of similar organisations with similar sized care homes, our fees would be very favourable. But if you were comparing us to smaller care homes with far less overheads, then and less corporate requirements on them, you're going to get that very, very distorted picture. And that's my worry.
I guess, Simon, that's where the median comes in, isn't it? That Jim and Angie were talking about earlier. I totally get what you're saying as well, because I work with a variety of providers, really large to really small, and you're absolutely right. The variation is huge. So, Angie, I don't know if you want to come back on that.
So I think it's fair to say that in the last survey we do get a mix, and I think the way that the template is designed enables us to actually look at the actual operating costs when comparing with maybe some of the corporate recharges. Might be a good opportunity for us to actually have a quick look at the template, Anna, and I think as we're doing that, then if there's any questions about the reason why we're asking certain parts of information on the template, that's a good opportunity to actually challenge it at that stage. But I think that the
Simon.
thing to say, sorry, the thing to say from us is that we've not had one template for years. We change the template every time we go out to do a survey if we're finding that we're getting particular queries from providers. So we learn every time when we develop the template. It doesn't change that much now because actually we're finding it has actually kind of plateaued, but there may be some changes. The big cost of care exercise last year, I think Jim has considered that as well when designing the template or refreshing the template. So it's not static. We do learn. We're still open to listen. Maybe it's an opportunity now, as I say, to actually go in and have a look at it.
Simon, did you want to add anything else? Because yours and Cinto's points are, I think, probably the
Yeah.
points of most of the providers actually, and I really take that on board,
Yeah.
and it's valid.
Yeah, I would like to add something else, please. And you see, I think the problem, Angie, and thank you for explaining that. The problem I don't think is the template. I think it's really, really important that if you're going to get buy-in from a lot of cynical people like me, and I'm, you know, Sarah will know me, I am cynical about this exercise. You absolutely do need to get, I would say, 70% of your 104 care homes engaging in this, and a cross section of all providers. I spent the first half of my career at, I don't know if anybody's heard of it, Pinders, typically valuing care homes between 15 and 40 beds. They are a completely different animal. It's a completely different market to corporate care homes. So we do need to have that corporate reflection. And I'm not convinced, and nothing as anybody has said to me from the first round of this, that we had enough corporate representative in that cost of care exercise. But that gives us a balance, and we then get the cross section of the market. If there's anything that I can do with, you know, through you to convince colleagues in the other corporates to do that, I would be very happy to sort of put my voice to it. But I do think it's really important, and until I've got that comfort, I will always be that you know, we have got that cross section. I'm always going to be a little bit cynical about it, I'm afraid.
I think between Mike and I, that's certainly something we should encourage, exactly as you said, the larger corporates,
Yeah.
because the skewing is a problem, and the impact is considerable. So I think the more you and I can do, Simon, the better, actually. Angie, did you want to?
And sorry to cut in, and I suppose and thank you, Simon, for your commitment to kind of get the engagement up. That's why we're kind of approaching the cost of care differently this year, because we want all parties to be included, and we don't want to be having conversations about whether the exercise is valid or not, because we want to be using the exercise to inform how we move forward. So any time that you can give to helping us get the engagement up and making sure that we've got the right sample size is great. And I suppose, just to kind of add, as a local authority, when we don't have from Valuing Care the feedback in terms of this provider's responded, this provider hasn't. So it's kind of in the gift of providers as a collective and the association to really kind of help us get those numbers up in terms of sample size.
Sarah and Angie, just before we go any further, I just want to say, Mike Hall, Mike, you had some questions. Well, your hand is up.
His hand was up for a long time.
In terms of participation rates, I do realise that Wiltshire and Somerset provided an incentive to providers to complete the forms, quite generous ones, and I imagine you're aware of that. But what I really wanted to raise with you is a slightly technical question for Jim, which is, it's budget time for us, and we've been using the data from the Bournemouth Pool Christchurch report to try and benchmark our performance. And the one thing that strikes us very powerfully is when you look at the raw data returns from providers in surrounding counties, I'm thinking of Hampshire, Somerset and Wiltshire, and putting aside this contention question about return on operations, the raw data that's been provided to the councils is about 20% higher than the adjusted data that appeared in your final report. And So I had two questions from this, which is one, when we think about what has happened in the labour market in North Dorset over the 2 years, 21, 22, and the one just ended, the marked shift has been increasing reliance on agency staff, particularly to cover nursing. And I had a question about whether in your template, your methodology will pick up shifts of this kind, because it has a dramatic impact on the hourly cost of providing care. And really, my second question was, you clearly made adjustments to the raw data provided you in Bournemouth, Poole and Christchurch, quite significant ones. And I imagine they are to compensate for occupancy rates, your benchmark staffing levels, and indeed home size. And going back to Simon's point, it does seem to me that depending on who replies to your questionnaire, the results can be very skewed if you only have a small sample. So just to summarize, if you want higher participation rates, maybe you should provide an incentive. And secondly, to build confidence amongst providers like us, and also to help us benchmark against other providers. It'd be useful to know what adjustments you make to the raw data you're fed.
Thanks, Mike. I think they're quite valid questions, actually. Over to Jim.
Thank you, Mike, for the question. And I think the first thing that I want to say is that we don't make adjustments to the raw data. We don't, you know, we're totally committed to analysing the sample as objectively as possible. The only time that we will, you know, if we think that a submission, if somebody's completed a template which appears unusual and is vastly out of kilter with the rest of the survey results, then we might exclude that template on quality grounds. But otherwise, we very much do not adjust the data that we receive, not for care home size or occupancy.
Can I come in just at that point,
Yeah.
Jim? I mean, I've read your Bournemouth Poole study quite closely, right through to the 16th page.
Yeah.
And I recall you saying that when it came to the 22-23 data you were provided, you suspected, first of all, that manning levels were higher than they should be, and that the data you were processing reflected aspirations on behalf of providers when it came to labour costs, but probably didn't correspond with reality. And the figures that appear in your fair price of care table are, when it comes to nursing and care staff, cost per bed, they're rather different to the ones reported further on in the report, which led me to think that you've compared the data you were given to your benchmarks, and you have made adjustments because of your views of the local labour market, and frankly, whether or not the data you were fed was reliable. I think that's what I'm picking up on. And they're both entirely respectable things to do, making adjustments, because of course you've got a wide range of performance between those submitting returns. But this is an area, it's a transparency point. I really think you've got to, if you're going to get us to be confident in your data, you're going to have to spell out what adjustments you are making, because I think you did make them in that case. Page 15 is pretty clear on that point. Shows I've read it too.
Well done, Mike. You might have to do a synopsis for some of us, actually. I'm going to hand back to Jim to respond briefly because I'm conscious of time. Providers on a Friday having to get back. So Jim, if you'd like to respond, and then I think Angie's going to just briefly share the template.
I do want to just say a little bit more, Mike. And I was speaking to the senior economist at the Department of Health this morning, and we were talking about some of the issues with the software that had been developed specifically for the exercise, and the inconsistencies within the information that was presented. And I think probably, I mean, I can't remember, but BCP in specific detail, because I do a lot of these exercises. But one of the common issues with the data was that the unit cost information, the actual unit cost information that was part of the data collection period. So that was based on actual expenditure for the previous year and actual occupancy, and that didn't actually tie up with the staffing levels and the rotas that people were saying that they were staffing their units at. So there was a difference between what providers were saying, this is how I staff my unit, and what the actual expenditure indicated. And that's but what I would say is, and we will do this in this exercise as well, when you look at the report and you see a percentile analysis of unit cost information, when you see a percentile analysis of staffing information, it will be the information that's been submitted by providers in the area. So I don't adjust that, but what I've got to do is draw conclusions from that. And if there are inconsistencies, then I'll need to point them out. We do not adjust the local survey results based on our model allocations, or based on what we think's what's happening elsewhere.
So Jim, can I just ask, Jim, can I ask a quick question in terms of what you've just said? If you pick up that inconsistency, are you going to go back to that provider and say, can I just check this with you? Because rather than saying there's a problem but not sharing it with that individual, so they can say, we've got it right, this is how it is in our business.
Indeed, and the template that we use is actually we set that up to hopefully to allow providers to reconcile that information themselves. So if I can share my screen now, and we can see the template, and then we can.
Okay, I'm just going to ask one more question. So the inconsistency that you consider to be an inconsistency may well not be for that provider. So, you know, what you choose to be an inconsistency, as Simon's nodding, may not be. So how do we clarify an inconsistency?
I mean, if we have a look at the template, and we can actually see this particular issue on the template, and again, there's a kind of a bit of sense checking within the template itself that providers can do. Okay, so hopefully you can all see my screen now. If I how do I get rid of my I'm not sure how to get rid of my formula bar, but hopefully that's not too much of a distraction for you. So this is the template that we as I say, that we've been using for many years, and actually the process, the methodology has been, you know, we think it's that works best in our experience. We've played with it a little bit. You access the you can access the tabs at the bottom of the spreadsheet, and there's 6 tabs in total. Well, there's some instructions on the first tab. There's a summary of service details, which includes a requirement for an estimation of the freehold value of the care home. There's a summary of average occupancy. And so we're asking specifically for the year to the 31st of March 23. You're asked to break down your actual occupancy between these service categories, with the definitions of which are included alongside. This doesn't, the split between the service categories doesn't need to be entirely precise. It can be an estimation. What I've done on this example, I've included somebody from, I've included some occupancy of all the categories, but I would expect most care homes for it to be focused on one or two of the categories. There's a summary of income and expenditure for the year ending 31st of March 23. Again, using the cost groups that we used last time. Again, this is entirely consistent with the DHSC requirements. We did ask for 2 years worth of data last time, but so that's hopefully going to be a simplification and will make it easier for providers to complete the template. And you can see that the breakdown of expenditure covers all the main cost groups.
Jim, Jim, sorry to interrupt you. I'm just really mindful of time and providers needing to leave. Is there, I suppose, there's any, when we send the invitations out and all the guidance, the letter has the clear kind of contact points. I'm just wondering whether if there's anything particular to highlight in the last couple of minutes, but I'm just mindful that providers will be needing to leave to get on with other things, or if there's any other kind of final questions you might want to take. I'm sorry to cut across you.
Simon's got his hand up. I think Mike's is a legacy hand potentially, but Simon, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, thanks, Anna. Just a question for Jim, really. In assessing your rate, the rates that you arrive at for in any given year, is that a completely standalone decision, or are you having regard to an increase from a previous year's rate as well? Because again, this is an exercise that DC embarked on last year. Was that, was the arrival of your rate having regard to probably what the local authority can afford and where we were in the previous year?
So I mean, it just in terms of the this exercise is very focused on last year's data. So the year to the 31st of March, we're basing that on actuals. The DHSE exercise whereby providers were allowed to add inflation or not add inflation caused confusion, and it led to, again, lots of inconsistencies.
Sorry, Jim, that's not my point. My point, sorry, the point I was trying to make was if the last year's rate was £8.50 a week, plucking a figure out of the air, and your cost of care exercise this year, if we got 80% involvement by bodies, demonstrated a fee for the same level of care at £1,200 a week, would you be reporting £1,200 a week?
Of course. I mean, we will construct.
And then on that basis, then the local authority would need to respond accordingly. Yeah. Indeed,
and that would be up to them to respond.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That was my point.
We're not working to a specific rate now. So the view is, the methodology is to identify median costs and to construct a fair price of care rate which reflects the median costs within Dorset.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sorry to labour the point. That it's just really, really important that we get this huge cross section of the county represented then, because I don't think it was properly represented last time.
Okay.
Certainly, we want to achieve higher participation.
I'll get off my hobby horse now. Yeah.
No, it's not a hobby horse. It's a really valuable statement, and I think a lot of people think it, and it needs to be asked. Sorry, Mike, have you got your hand up
Yeah,
again?
one more point. Without drilling into the detail, there's a marked disparity, as I said, between the returns of the neighbouring counties when it comes to costs and the costs that form the basis in the Bournemouth Pool Christchurch report of the cost of care. It's around 20%. And I would be very surprised if the returns you get from Dorset providers are different to the returns that have already been submitted for 22-23. And I guess I'm trying to explain to myself why the raw data and the figures you came up with in Bournemouth Pool, why the difference should be so large. It's a confidence point, Rennie, which I think is the one we're dealing with here.
Mike, I will be happy to discuss this with you further after the meeting. I haven't got the figures in front of me. There was, again, as I said, I was talking to the Department of Health this morning, and one of their issues was that there was such disparity between different council areas in terms of the data. So they were really surprised at the disparity.
There are in fact remarkable similarities when you look at the median values from the responses provided by those three counties. It really struck me.
Okay, what I'm going to do is suggest that potentially some of this could go offline as well.
Yeah, sure.
I think no.
You
I
have
mean,
my detailed question, don't you?
I do, and I
happy
will
to follow it
them.
up with Jim.
Brilliant. And I think Jim and Angie, you may have a few people contacting you, and if it's okay, the Care Association, Sarah, Mark, and Hannah will all say, you know, we can help with this bit, give them a call about that bit, and we will be encouraging as many people as possible to do it, and hopefully, you know, we can get Simon to work with me alongside the larger providers, because we do need everything into the mix. Before we go and let everybody get back to their lovely Friday tasks, is there anything else anybody wants to ask or anything? Sarah, did you want to add anything? Or Mark?
No, thank you. Just to thank everybody for their time and keep the queries coming through. It's important that we clarify these things so that we can have sort of trust and sign up to the process.
Okay, but for me, in terms of the specialist type of provider and the different kind of grades, that's something that we need to look at as well as providers, in terms of one person does not fit in one box for the rest of their life. So again, that's a conversation over time. I think I can see Mark nodding as well.
Can I ask just one last thing? Yes or no can be is enough. You know, this is mainly for care homes, right? Is there any similar exercise for home care? Because we haven't seen any movement on that side for many years.
Yeah, there is, and this is we're kind of the victims first.
So we did run. So just to confirm, though, we did run a home care cost of care exercise at the same point as the last care homes one. So we'll be running separate engagement sessions on the relaunch of that, which we expect will be the next month or 8 weeks.
All right. Okay, thank you.
So I think when we started Cinto, we said it was going to go out to supported living, learning disability, dom care, and then into learning disability care homes. So it's kind of going to have the traction and work from group to group.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
On behalf of Hannah and myself, thank you to those that attended. We have recorded it and we will share it. I know that we will also be sharing the numbers for Angie and for Jim so that they can get in touch. Although it's on all the data, we'll have it ready and we'll do regular reminders. And for those that have attended today, if a provider wanted to make contact with you just to say, what do you think can help? If you're happy with that, we may well ask them to just give a call to you for some reassurance. But thank you, everybody, for attending, and thanks for sorting it. Hannah, much appreciated, all the reminders and the pokes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, guys, thanks ever so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.